Welcome back to Podcasting for Real Estate Pros, where agents learn to attract clients, build trust, and stand out with the power of podcasting. Let's dive in. This is episode 17, you guys. We're going to talk about how to turn listeners into clients. Podcasting isn't just about being heard, it's about being hired. But if selling on your podcast makes you feel slimy and cringy, don't worry. You can grow your business without sounding like a used car ad. Hello. It's your host, Sue Willoughby. And today we're going to get into the good stuff. How to turn your podcast audience into real life clients. Imagine that. And we're going to do this without feeling cringy, salesy, and like you're pitching a timeshare. This is about invitation, not interrogation, and not lecturing. People are not tuning into your show by accident. They're already interested in what you have to say and what you do. They're learning from you, they're trusting you, and they're starting to feel seen by you. All you're doing is saying, hey, if you want to go deeper, I've got you. That's not a sales pitch. That's just service. That's providing value. Please get this in your head. You are providing value to them by being in their ears. So don't forget that. Here's an easy 4-part conversion flow. First, we're going to talk about consistent micro invites. Throughout your episode, you should be dropping little simple call to actions that sound like they're part of the conversation, not just, hey, everybody, subscribe now or call. You can do those kinds of call outs, but during your episode, when you're talking about your content, you want to make it sound like it's part of the conversation. So for example, when I was working with a first-time home buyer last week, I shared with them my 10 tips on what they needed to do to understand the home buying process. Ding, ding, ding. There you go. People are going to be like, hey, I wonder what those tips are. Later on in the episode, you can say, if you want those 10 tips on what the home buying process is like, check out my show notes. There's a link there to download the checklist or whatever it is. But if you drop it into the conversation, it doesn't sound like a sales pitch. So not every CTA needs to be a big sales push, but it does need to kind of guide them forward. So like I said, if you just drop it into the conversation, you can always bring it up again later. And then that way people are like, I wonder how I could get that checklist, or I wonder how I could get that, whatever it is, that bonus information. Secondly, tell client stories often. This is going to normalize working with you and what it really looks like. So once again, I was just talking to a client the other day who was experiencing a challenging inspection report. And this is what we did. This is how we went through it and broke it down. Something like that. That way they're like, oh yeah, inspection reports, they kind of scare me. Your listeners are thinking, yeah, that's me. I'm a little afraid of that thing. Or one of my buyers last month had the same concern. Something that's going to be relatable to your audience. This does two things. It shows that people are already working with you, and it also builds kind of a FOMO without being pushy. So they're like, well, if other people are working with this person, I want to get in on this action because they sound like a really knowledgeable agent, and I need somebody on my side to represent me. Part 3, create an offer episode. So every 6 to 8 episodes, do one that's dedicated to your service or your offer. And it's going to be like what it's really like to work with you. So people love stuff like behind the scenes of a listing prep. Maybe you're doing a walkthrough and you're helping the client what they need to do for their listing. It's going to give some insight into your listing prep process, and it's also going to educate potential listing clients out there. You can also talk about here's my 3-step onboarding process for first-time home buyers. If you've got first-time home buyers listening, they're going to be like, oh gosh, that sounds really easy. I thought it was going to be really intimidating. So there you go. Like I said, every 6 to 8 episodes, Throw in one that talks about you and the service that you provide and how you provide it. Like I said, people love hearing about behind the scenes stuff. So give value and make an invite to working with you crystal clear. Hey, if this is something that you're interested in, I would love to talk to you. Why don't you book a 20-minute call with me? And part 4, use warm language. So skip the hard sell jargon. Like if you've noticed when I've been talking about all of these things, you're going to drop it into the episode. It's going to be part of a conversation. So you're going to use words like curious about XYZ, or need support with XYZ, or let's explore if we're even a fit. That right there, my friend, is going to get you clients, because people will think, well, why wouldn't this agent want to work with me? It's not just about me wanting to work with them. What they need to want to work with me. Oh, we need to make this happen, right? So it's kind of a little FOMO-y thing that people are like, well, heck, of course they're going to want to work with me. So then they're going to try really hard to get on your list. So it's not about pressure. It's about getting permission. And it's very simple. It's very subtle. It's very conversational. Here's some areas where you can slip these conversion conversations in. You can do it in your podcast intro. You can do it in your show notes, social media posts that are tied to the episodes, emails that link to your episodes, or any kind of free resource or opt-ins that you're using to get new people on your email list and build your audience. So think about it as if you're building a funnel just by being helpful and providing value. Remember, as we wrap up here, you don't have to hard sell. You just have to show up, serve, and invite. People want to work with someone that they trust, and podcasting builds trust faster than anything else out there. Coming up next week, we are going to get nerdy in the best way possible. We're diving into the analytics that actually matter and which ones to ignore completely. Until then, keep it warm, keep it real, and never be afraid to ask. Here's the truth. The agents who take action now will own their market a year from now. If you're ready, join my course, Podcasting for Real Estate Pros. Use the code LAUNCH when you enroll and check out, and you'll unlock some bonus training as well as a discount. That's only for podcast listeners, so act now. See the show notes below for the link.